والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and salutations to our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My beloved brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, this evening we start off with a dua. We ask Allah to grant us warmth and comfort, and all those who are afflicted, may Allah grant them warmth and comfort and protection. May Allah ease our challenges and difficulties. This evening we're looking at a very short but very important concept that we started with last week. Last week we looked at wudu and the furud, the mandatory, obligatory actions in the wudu. Looking at one concept specifically, and that is the issue of niyyah, the intention. And from the feedback I received last week, many were unaware that when you make your niyyah, you have to be clear what it is you are intending to do. We were talking about the niyyah for wudu last week. And if you can recall, inshallah, I mentioned that when you take a niyyah for wudu, it will be one of two niyyahs. Can we recall, inshallah? Anyone? That your niyyah for wudu will be one of two when you take a niyyah for wudu. And remember, of course, the intention is very, very important. Anyone, inshallah? MashaAllah, okay, the Hakim has spoken, MashaAllah, Shaykh Hakim has spoken, that you're essentially going to make a niyyah sunnah or fard. And a sunnah niyyah would be when there is raf al-hadath, when you are wanting to remove an impurity. And a fard wudu is when you require it for salah, when the action requires that particular performance of wudu. So by looking at the niyyah, this hadith I think is one of the most well-known hadith, other than it featuring in Arba'in al-Nawawi, the hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. The hadith of our Prophet ﷺ in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, that actions are judged according to intention and everyone will get what they intended. So what does the Shaykh write about niyyah? And of course we in Kitab al-Tahara, the chapter on cleanliness. The Shaykh writes, النية قصد الشيء مقترنا بفعله. That the niyyah is something that is made simultaneously with the action. So that's the first gem that we need to look at. It is muqtarinan. It is made with the action, the commencement of the action. وَمَحَلُّهَا, and its positioning, its place, al-qalb, must be in the heart. So when you make a niyyah, what's really important is that it must be, you need to be clear on what it is you are doing. وَتَلَفُّظْ بِهَا, and enunciating it, articulating it, saying it, verbalizing it, sunnah. It is sunnah to say the niyyah, but it must be in the heart. وَوَقْتُهَا عِنْدَ غَسْلِ أَوَّلِ جُزْءٍ مِنَ الْوَجْهِ. Now in terms of the wudu, you must recite the niyyah by the time you begin washing the first part of the face. But I'll unpack this shortly. وَالتَّرْتِيبُ أَنْ لَا يُقَدَّمْ عُضْوٌ عَلَى عُضْوٍ. And then you must have the tartib, the sequence. That is to observe the sequence of wudu so that no latter limb of wudu should precede a former limb. We touched the tartib last week. But when it comes to the niyyah, there's a lot that we need to pay attention to here. The niyyah you need, of course, if we look at your means of cleanliness, purification, wudu, tayammum, and ghusl. And for wudu, your ablution, your tayammum, and your ghusl, there will be times when the performance of that purification is sunnah, and there are times when it is compulsory. And it's very important that we are clear on the purpose of that purification. So the ghusl that is performed, when we get to chapter on ghusl, I will discuss it. But the ghusl that we perform on a Friday, on Jumu'ah, is sunnah, yes. Unless it was a good Thursday night, alhamdulillah. Then that's a different niyyah. Then it might be fard. But the ghusl of the Jumu'ah is sunnah. And so the niyyah that you make for that ghusl is important. And similarly with wudu, we need to be clear on the niyyah. What is a beautiful gem, firstly, is the fact that the niyyah must be linked to the performance of the action. So the ulama, the fuqaha have written regarding this. Majority of the madhahib stipulate that the niyyah must be recited by the time you begin the action. So as you start, so in terms of wudu, we will look at the sunnahs of wudu next week, inshallah. One of the sunnahs of the wudu is that you begin with basmala. That you begin the wudu with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Which means that if that is the first action of your wudu, your niyyah must then be immediately prior to the recitation of the basmala. If that is the sunnah act that you do. But as the Shaykh writes here, he says that the niyyah must be recited with the starting of the washing of the face. And this is on the basis of you not preceding it with any other sunnah acts. If hypothetically there's limited time, limited water, and we do not engage in the washing of the hands 3 times, we don't engage in the rinsing of the mouth, the nostrils, which are all sunnah acts. If one has to go directly to the furud, which is the wiping of the face, then it must be recited by the time you wipe your face. Now, let's say you begin wudu, you start washing your hands, and now you realize after the washing of the hands, oh, I never recited niyyah. Remember last week we said we become so used to an action, we just go through the routine. To take up dust, okay, you go to the tap, but you don't actually take the niyyah, you make the niyyah. Because it's okay, I'm going to perform salah, and you just absent-mindedly, unconsciously, just approach the action. You don't pay attention to it. When you realize you never made a niyyah, it must be recited by the time you start wiping your face. And then the fuqaha have written, if you've made sunnah actions, but you only recited the niyyah at the time of wiping the face, there is no reward for the sunnah actions preceding it, because you had no intention for it. So it's very important to be aware of that recitation of the niyyah. So you recite the niyyah linking to the action. And the place of the niyyah is the heart. So now I'm going to give you a good quiz. Right? Let's just talk about niyyah quickly. Let's say you need to take a fard wudu, right? And you about to begin the wudu and you make the niyyah nawaitu sunnat al-wudu. But it's a fard wudu for perhaps the performance of salah. So you know you're going to make the maghrib salah, but the niyyah you recited that came out of your mouth was sunnah. Is the niyyah intact? Yes or no? Mashallah, we'll be making salah for many years. The niyyah is not intact, okay? That's the one opinion. Yes? We must have the opposite opinion. It's needed in this discussion, inshallah. So, is the niyyah intact? Now, the Shaykh writes, وَمَحَلُّهَا الْقَلْبِ. The place of the niyyah is the heart. So the fuqaha have written that if you say something, but you thought something else, it goes back to what you were thinking. It's like you're about to begin salah, and you say, nawaitu usalli, fard al-maghrib. You're going to perform the fard of maghrib, but it is in the waqt of asr. So you enter the masjid, you're about to be, but because your tongue says something, but you know in your heart and your mind, this is asr salah, but you said maghrib, and you entered the salah, takbiratul ihram, you entered, and then you think, now of course when we enter salah, that is when shaitan comes forth. And then he says, hey, Buddha, you read the wrong thing now. Now you think, do I start my salah over? What do I do? If you knew it was Asr Salah, but your tongue said something else, your Salah is not invalidated because mahalluha al-qalb, the place of the niyyah is the heart. If you want to have less worries, it is time to, begin the Salah again, you may do so. But if you're in your second, third raka'ah, you won't break it because of that, as long as you knew what you said. So importantly, the heart is the place of the niyyah and the tongue follows. And sometimes you have to, say it out so that you ensure that what your speech is corresponds with what is in your heart. So I'll share the basic niyyah for the wudu. So when we say it must be in the heart, you need to be clear that you're performing the wudu for either it is a sunnah or a fard. That is important. And you can, if you want to add into your niyyah for the salah, that is perfectly fine. But the minute you differentiate between the wudu being sunnah or fard, you are quite clear on its purpose. So there isn't a need to stipulate that. And then, of course, you can add on to the niyyah lillahi ta'ala. So a very basic niyyah. Now I know, mashallah, the ulama and the imams and the khalifas who taught for many years often had very lengthy niyyahs, and which is good. But I'm just giving the basics here. It doesn't mean the previous niyyahs are wrong. They're perfectly fine. But I'm just giving the bare minimum, especially for someone who is learning or new to the deen, someone watching or listening. The bare basics. You need to intend, nawaitu, and you can say sunnah al-wudu lillahi ta'ala. Those are the fundamental elements that you intend. For it to be a wudu, it is sunnah or fard, and it is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you can't recite an Arabic niyyah, that's perfectly fine, as long as by the time you started that wudu and you reached the washing of the face, you were clear why you were taking wudu, why there's water on your hands. You were clear, okay, no, it's for salah, I'm going to touch the Quran, whatever it might be, you were clear. So we conclude this evening. The intention, the niyyah is wajib, must be there. Secondly, it must be in the heart, it is a requirement, and it is better, it is sunnah to recite the niyyah. And then thirdly, the intention must be made at the beginning of that act. If you are busy with the act, and of course we know with the wudu we spoke about 13, the order must be there. If you have passed the washing of the face, perhaps you are now busy, by your ankles, and you realize, I didn't make a niyyah, then that, of course, that is now invoid. You have to then begin from the very beginning. So, inshallah, good reminder to myself and everyone to become conscious, inshallah. Any questions? MashaAllah, return to the blanket setting.